Once again, thanks for joining us. We'll begin in the United States, where former President Donald Trump has pleaded not guilty to 34 felony charges during a court hearing in New York. He's the first former president in the history of the country to face criminal prosecution. The charges were handed down by a grand jury convened by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. Bragg's office has been investigating the circumstances surrounding a payment made on Trump's behalf to an adult film star in exchange for her silence about an alleged affair. The arraignment caps a day of spectacle surrounding Trump's surrender at Manhattan Criminal Court.
Well, Arise correspondent Eric Ham has been following developments, and he joins us now live from New York. Hi, Eric. What's the latest? What can you tell us about this historic court process for the president, the first in history of the United States, answers questions in court? What can you tell us?
Well, it's the first indeed. You're right. And historic it is. In fact, just behind me right there is where the former president actually came out after his arraignment and everything. And you see the police officers are now taking down the barricades from where he exited the building, is now on his way back to Trump Force One, where he will be flying back to Florida to his estate, where he will be providing a media availability to the press about what took place today. And as you said, the president pled not guilty to all of the charges. And we will also hear from Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg about these charges that were brought against Donald Trump as well. Alvin Bragg has been a central figure in all of this. We have heard the former president go after him in vitriolic terms, but we have not heard or seen much from Alvin Bragg since this investigation began. And of course, since the indictment came down. Now he gets to tell his side of the story. And so we are going to be hearing from him tonight, as well as Donald Trump. So we'll juxtapose both men in terms of what they have to say, what this means, of course, and how they plan to move forward.
Rick, you know, a lot of people were actually hoping, thinking that his fingerprints were going to be taken when he arrived, and his mugshot wasn't also taken. Let us in on how this is going, because some also were contemplating if the former president was going to be placed in a handcuff, but that didn't happen.
No, a lot of people were thinking that we would see the theatrics of a typical law enforcement television show or something like that it would play out. But this was negotiated actually prior to this arraignment, that he would not be put in handcuffs, that there would be no mugshot. He was, however, fingerprinted, and we do know that he went before the judge, and the indictment was unsealed, and those charges were actually read to him. His lawyers had the opportunity to respond, and of course, we know they pled not guilty. Now comes the actual process of going through the pretrial motions. And we know that his attorneys will certainly ask that this case be thrown out. It's unlikely that will happen, but we're still waiting to see exactly the details of these charges against the former president. It's been a whirlwind day. I've been moving around. In fact, we were over where the demonstrators were, and we came over to where Donald Trump was, where he was exiting, to get a look of him. When he came out, he came across as very contrite today in court, and I suspect that what we will see tonight will be very, very different from the man that we saw in court today.
34 count charges. We hear some 3 hush money payments detailed in the indictment. What else can you tell us about these 34 charges, Eric?
Yeah, well, it's a long list of charges that we're seeing against the former president. We know that he is going to fight these charges vigorously, but also, too, given we know that Donald Trump can be very blustery and bellicose about in terms of his rhetoric and how he speaks about his enemies and those who he sees as going after him wrongfully. What we see in this instance is Donald Trump is taking these charges very seriously. And I say that because we know that he recently added an individual to his defense team, a former federal prosecutor, someone who actually came up through the federal prosecutor ranks with the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg. So clearly the former president is taking these charges very seriously, and we know they're going to fight these charges vigorously as well.
And again, he's maintained his innocence and denounced the Manhattan attorney's probe as politically motivated witch hunt. But again, speak to us on what this definitely means in the political history of the United States.
Yeah, this is actually something that we've never seen in the United States. Now, we do know in Western countries, we have seen world leaders indicted and even convicted in France and in Italy and South Korea as well. But now what we're seeing here with Donald Trump, we're not just seeing someone who is actually charged with a crime, but someone who is actively going after the state as an institution. And that's what makes this so different in terms of what we're seeing play out today and what we're going to continue to see play out. Because again, these are not the only charges confronting Donald Trump. Donald Trump is facing investigations, very serious investigations in the state of Georgia, as well as at the federal level, where there is a special counsel that has already been impaneled. And we know that there's a grand jury looking at whether or not Donald Trump absconded with national security documents, but also looking at his role in the January 6th, 2021 insurrection. So this is only one of many certain events where Donald Trump is going to be fighting, but he's not only going to be fighting for his political life, he's going to be fighting for his own personal freedom as well, if in fact we see indictments come down in those other cases.
Eric Ham will be waiting to hear what President Donald Trump has to say about this in Mar-a-Lago. Of course, we hear he's on his way back to Florida already. Thank you very much.